Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Melissa Galasso, and we're going to kind of continue on last week's topic. Last week we talked about the IAASB strategy and work plan. Today we're going to turn our attention to the IAASB strategy and work plan. So we talked about ethics last week. This week we're going to talk about assurance. So the IAASB is one who handles sort of the international assurance and auditing requirements, and they have put together their strategy and work plan for 2024 through 2027. And we know that we have in the United States a strategic methodology to try, when possible, to converge with what's going on at the IAASB. So it's important to know what they're working on to kind of know what the ASB, the Auditing Standards Board here in the United States, is going to be working on in the near future. So let's take a look at what's going on at the IAASB. So the title of their document is Elevating Trust in Audit and Assurance. And so this was issued on April 11th, and their goal is really to enhance consistency and quality of the audit and assurance standards worldwide, because again, they're the international, and then reflect the crucial role of audit and assurance in fostering trust in the world's economy. And you're going to notice that it's not just audits of financial statements. There's a lot of focus in this on sustainability, on the IAASB work that is happening as well. So the IAASB's goal is to serve the public interest by developing the globally accepted and leading audit, review, and other assurance standards, enabling the consistent performance of quality engagements that enhance trust in external reporting and evolve in a timely manner to meet changing public interest demands. So again, when we think about the importance of this, a focus on quality, the engagements have to meet the standards so that we are able to provide that assurance that people can trust and rely on. Focusing again on being the leading audit, review, and assurance requirements here, focusing on changing interests publicly. So when we look at some of the strategic drivers that they focus on in this standard, looking at more diverse demand. So impact of technology, hot topic over here in the United States as well. Sustainability reporting, we've already seen the SEC as well as California move in this direction. Obviously, both of those have met with some legal action, so we're interested to see sort of where they go, but not something unique to the overseas international world anymore. Diverse demands across a spectrum of stakeholders in that global economy, heightened supervisory scrutiny. Obviously, when we have these failures, it does obviously bring attention to our profession and not in the most glamorous way. And then support the implementation of standards. You can't just put standards out there and hope that they implement properly, right? Hope is not a strategy. So what are we going to do to assist with the implementation? And then confronting headwinds to the global adoption of standards, because again, they really don't want to have local standards and a bunch of standards. Their goal is to try to bring in. So again, cooperation across independent standard setting bodies, evolving expectations around sustainability, insurance, impact and reasons for jurisdictions developing their own, right? So why can't we all just get on board with one global method? Why does the US have to have a separate one? How can we try to minimize differences, which is the goal of the ASB? They monitor, they are involved in the IAASB's process. It's part of their big projects. If you look at the agendas of the next few meetings, and you just look at what they're planning on discussing at ASB meetings, a good portion of their meetings is allocated to the international standards. And then looking again at increasingly complex to manage global engagement with new stakeholders, and then changing demands, right? So implement the monitoring group aimed at enhancing independence and confidence. Again, that IAASB concept. Attract top talent to the board and staff levels, just like everyone else. Recruiting is a thing. Increasingly tight timelines to meet heightened expectations and the ability to leverage technology. So their objectives strategically are to support the consistent performance of quality audit and review engagements by enhancing our standards in an area where the greatest public interest need. Establishing globally accepted auditing standards and on reporting for sustainability. Strengthening coordination with IAASB, which is the International Ethics Standards Board here, and other leading standard setters and regulators to leverage better collective action. So one of the examples here is we're going to see what they're looking at is the definition of a public interest entity. The IAASB has issued the PEAK, Professional Ethics Executive Committee here in the United States. And so now they're looking at, okay, how does that impact our audit standards from the IAASB? And no surprise, ASB also looking at this area. And then create a more agile, innovative way of working in line with the monitoring group reform vision. So there were already projects they were working on. They will continue into 2024. So they're not just going to stop the projects that are halfway done. Going concern being revised, the implication of the listed and public interest entities from IAASB, as we mentioned. Fraud, so they are updating ISA 240. And then audit evidence, which is ISA 500. Remember, we have already updated in SAS 142 our audit evidence standards. So a little bit of a unique situation. Usually it's them first, then us. We went in a kind of different direction on that one. And then again, that overarching standards for assurance on sustainability reporting. Lots of focus on sustainability here. So what do we expect to see coming down the pike? Well, a goal here of establishing a board position on addressing the impact of technology in our standards, including vision and ROMAT. Obviously, we are seeing more use of technology in risk assessment, in sampling, in audit procedures, and I think there's a really trying to understand how to make that integrate. Integrated approach to audit evidence and risk response, including focus on technology and internal control. As I said, we already kind of addressed this in SAS 142, but I'm interested to see how this will play out into the future as we look at what changes they make, how will that maybe impact us. Narrow scope amendments arising from IASB's use of experts project. So again, we would call it use of specialist, but how does the IASB work there? And again, Peak will also be taking a look at that. Review of interim information, materiality, always a fun topic. Modernization of other targeted standards in the ISA 500 series, including a focus on technology, 500 being evidence. Post-implementation review of ISA 540, which is our estimates. We just implemented here SAS 143. They implemented ISA 540 just a little bit before us. And then post-implementation review of ISA 315, which is risk assessment. So SAS 145 here in the United States. So again, they always kind of go first. So they implemented their risk assessment standards before us. So they're in their post-implementation review. Well, we're still sort of in the thick of it. Our 1231s are done. But as we get closer to those 630s, still working through the implementation of SAS 145 and AUC section 315. Maintenance for the ISA for LCE, that's something that we talked about in our previous blogs, where they have issued an ISA to provide reasonable assurance for less complex entities. And there's a lot of interest in this, obviously, because it's basically looking at what is the thing that you have to do for these organizations that are less complex, right? So they have minimal number of employees, no complex transactions. They're, sort of the core of what we would think of as our small businesses. And what do we have to do at the bare minimum to be able to give that reasonable assurance? And they really streamlined this. Now, again, we don't see a huge focus on this in the United States yet, but you can use the ISA for LCE standard so long as it's not prohibited here in the United States for a less complex audit if you so chose, because again, you're still going to get that same opinion. You're just going to be using the ISAs in lieu of the AICPA standards. And then other implementation and support for the ISSA 5000, again, around sustainability, and then additional standard setting related to sustainability. So sustainability, top of mind, definitely at the IAASB here, and technology, right? So really two key focuses that you'll see repeated throughout these new initiatives that we're going to see from 2024 through 2027. Now, they also have other initiatives that are not going to necessarily be standard setting initiatives, ongoing work streams focused on technology, professional skepticism, and auditor reporting. So again, when you think about some of the key areas here, professional skepticism, always really important. They are working on the ISA 240, which is fraud. We've had some minor updates to AUC 240 here in the States, but it hasn't been a big project. It is something that the ASB is looking at, and they're again monitoring the ISA standard currently. And then implementation support activities, including developing first-time implementation support and other non-authoritative guidance, especially around sustainability and other areas. If you're going to do this and you've not done this before, kind of want some kind of indication of what that's going to look like. So IAASB has a pretty big agenda for the next 3 years, and we know that this agenda will influence the Auditing Standards Board here in the United States, or the AICPA. So strategic monitoring happening by the ASB, which then will come down the pike. So we wanted to make sure you were aware of what was changing from the IAASB, because it's probably coming soon to a theater near you in our audits here in the United States. So hopefully that was a nice update on what you need to know about what's happening out there in the international audit standards. It was a pleasure having you on today's blog. I look forward to having you on a future blog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.